Hey kids, it's that time again. Not coffee time, that scariest of all seasons, Halloween. And while there's surely nothing scarier than dealing with the cable company, or any utility for that matter, Halloween the movie still does a pretty good job. It may be a cliche, especially this time of year, to tell you that my favorite horror movie is in fact Halloween. I mean the one that Rob Zombie didn't piss all over. The original. The one with John Carpenter's stamp of approval at the top. My wife and I watch Halloween every single Halloween. If not on the actual day, at least sometime during that week. The premise is simple. But for those of you who haven't seen it, or are too frightened to, which is just shameful, I've created this handy refresher. Da-da-da, Halloween refresher! So back in the 70s when it was cool to wear clown costumes, this kid, Michael Myers, hacks up his slutty sister and ends up in an insane asylum. Because psycho kids aren't nearly as threatening as psycho adults, 10 years go by, and Michael Myers escapes during a storm, much to the dismay of Donald Pleasance, his psychiatrist, who looks generally crazy throughout the entire movie. It's about this time we're introduced to Laurie Strode, played by Jamie Lee Curtis in her first film role, and her friends, Annie and Linda. You might recognize Linda as PJ Souls from Rock and Roll High School, that movie with the Ramones in it. As with most horror movie victims, the girls are about as insightful as government bureaucrats, except for Laurie, who seems to be the target of Michael Myers' hatred. And before you can scream, "Shoulda gone to the pot party, Laurie!" Michael Myers swoops in like a cutlery salesman with a chip on his shoulder. As if anyone needed another reason not to babysit creepy kids on Halloween. Right? So we love Halloween. And it's in a very unwholesome, unnatural way. In fact, we even named our dog Lindsay, senior, looking adorable, after Lindsay from the movie, who turned out to be a real housewife of Beverly Hills. So now every time we watch the show, we can point her out to Lindsay and say, "Hey, you were named after a fame whore." I think the reasons we love it are twofold. One, it's a classic. Sure, there were people getting killed in movies before this with big butcher knives and things like that. The Italians made a whole franchise of them called Giallo. But I think it was John Carpenter that really brought this to Hollywood, which is interesting because Halloween was an independent movie. In fact, it's the highest grossing independent film of all time, if that record hasn't been broken yet. Two, there's a nostalgic quality to it. It has that feel of the late 70s, early 80s, and so that really kind of hits my heart in the right place, even if it's about people getting their hearts torn out. That never happens in the movie. For those of you who are afraid of horror movies, Halloween's probably a good starter. There's no blood in the movie, no gore at all. I think people have a hard time believing that, but there really isn't. The special effects are done primarily in the shadows, and while there's a lot of tension in it, and which is another reason, I guess that could be number 3, is that John Carpenter really has a way with building tension. Plus it's just really packed with great dialogue. Or maybe not so great dialogue, but dialogue that my wife and I like to repeat incessantly. Such as, "Lindsay, Lester's barking again and getting on my nerves again." She doesn't care. That's Annie. Annie says that, played by Nancy Loomis. We actually say that to her quite a bit, and she probably thinks we're insane because we are. But the real kicker was, when we first got our puppy, Smokey, we had initially named him Lester, but our friends kept calling him Lester the Molester, which wasn't good. And it turns out wrong because he's totally a victim. That's Halloween. It's my favorite Halloween movie, oddly enough. Whether it's my favorite horror movie, I'm not so sure. I'll have to give that some thought. What's your favorite horror movie? What movie is your favorite Halloween movie? I guess that's the better one. What's your favorite Halloween movie? What movie says Halloween to you?